By God, we're live. Hi, everybody. I'm Max. Do you remember yesterday I read from this book, The Darkening, by Rob and Laura Petri? We did chapter 1. Now today, because the chapters are a little bit shorter, I want to go through chapter 2 and 3 with you. This book's got some amazing stuff. Let's get into it. All right, chapter 2. Here we go. A constitutional republic, not a democracy. You understand, this chapter is going to explain to us why America, the United States, is not a democracy and why you pray it never is a democracy. Okay? Keep in mind the US of A, as I said, is not a democracy. America has guarantees, God-given rights, and a constitution to protect those rights and those guarantees. They bear no resemblance, none, to the elements of a democracy. It's literally apples and oranges. America is a constitutional republic. In democracies, there are no guarantees or written commitments to things such as, liberty and freedom. You won't find a single democracy in the world that guarantees those things to their people. Republics guarantee it. Keep in mind as I move on, a constitutional republic is not a democracy. Now, democracy, that's a form of government ruled by the majority. In a democracy, 51% of the people can impose their will on the remaining 49%. It's truly majority rules. Well, majority rules isn't always fair, especially when you have 51 people with the law on their side ganging up on 49. America's republic is different. The Constitution of the United States, on which this republic operates, contains a laundry list of guaranteed rights, and it doesn't give you these rights. It recognizes these are rights given to you by God, by the Creator, by Allah, by whatever you want to call him. God gave you these, and the purpose of that document is to protect what God gave you. It's that damn simple. Now, okay, here we go. Take, for example, the Second Amendment. I'm going on to page 7. The Second Amendment to the Constitution reads in part, I quote, "The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." Could that be any clearer? It only clarifies the unabridged right to keep and bear arms, but also infers that this is to protect the people from harm by their government. Never again will the government betray its own people as it did in the Revolutionary War. That was a war that had us fighting against the occupying forces of Great Britain, as well as our neighbors and our families and our closest friends. This amendment is a key principle to ensure that America will always be a heavily armed republic and subsequently a free republic. In the United States, private ownership of guns, at present that we know of, there are over 700 million firearms running around in America in the hands of people who can protect us, if need be, from a rogue government or an outside force. Now, as I explained yesterday, there's no risk of an outside invasion. We're just too damn strong and we're too damn big. Now, among Americans, there are over 35 million military veterans, most of whom still have an abiding love for this country and for their constitutionally guaranteed rights. That makes the United States, as I described yesterday, a fortress. Fortress America. And over 20 million of these veterans have witnessed combat. They're willing and able to take a life if necessary. They account for only a few percentage points of the population. I think it's like 1.2%. But they're the only ones who have witnessed death, who have killed in the name of freedom and justice, who have taken lives so that we don't have to. Put simply, you civilians only think you know what's up. But But when the chips are down, back off, get out of the way, let a veteran show you how it's done. Now, through some of the most insidious plots in history, America stands on the brink of destruction. It's not from outside our borders, such as invading armies or hordes of evil people, or even from a rogue government. The threat is the discord, the fracturing of beliefs and ideals among American people. Racial division, spiritual division, religious, it's dividing us, okay? In fact, the next chapter is entitled, A House Divided Cannot Stand. But let's get away from that for a minute. You understand, this is happening on virtually every front imaginable. America faces enemies in Beijing and domestically. We know, at least they do, the enemy knows, that a house divided cannot stand. Now I'm going to go on to chapter 3. Today's 2 and 3. Tomorrow we'll do 4 and 5. A house divided cannot stand. In the event of the full collapse of American society, it will become possible for the enemy to insinuate themselves into the resultant chaos. From there, you could see America occupied with just the snap of a finger. These occupiers would be our brothers, our sisters, our mothers and fathers, swayed by the communist promise of a utopia. Isn't it beautiful to think that everybody's equal? No one's in charge. We all have food, money, clothes, and the cow jumped over the frickin' moon. Do you understand? When augmented with insinuated troops, we'd be doomed. Don't think it's impossible, because it's already begun. Hitler Germany fractured relations between the gypsies, Catholics, Jews, the disabled, and the weak. It was this division that allowed Hitler's regime to pick off the gypsies, Jews, and Catholics one at a time, group by group, because everybody feared everybody else, everybody hated everybody else. He could never have won election and gained the power he had he and his people not successfully divided the citizenry. Let's get a little cough here. Boy, you can see it, but you can't hear it. I hope. Let's move along. Germany had become a house divided, and the Nazis won without firing a shot. Now, the mission and the ultimate goal of the Department of America's Department of Homeland Security, DHS, is to enslave the public, expand American troops overseas, and eventually enslave the world. I believe that George Bush's Department of Homeland Security is nothing less than the right hand of Satan. Here's the war criminal, George W. Bush, christened this new agency, gave it unlimited powers, and even pushed and forced at gunpoint people to sign off on the Patriot Act. What is the Patriot Act? It's the most unconstitutional threat we've ever had. That act was fostered by elements of the People's Republic of China, working very closely with George W. Bush. This act has potentially invalidated all constitutional rights. Adolf Hitler, used to his own Department of Homeland Security, played this violin with great effect. Do you understand? Hitler had a Department of Homeland Security. We named ours the same way. Are we going to repeat history? Had this law, this tragedy, this travesty, the Patriot Act, been presented at any time in history before the 911, it would never have made it to the Senate floor. It would never have been passed. Whoever wrote it would be ostracized. But Bush and others in the deep state used the tragedy of 911 to panic Americans. And in a herd, Americans panic. Oh my God, over there. Oh. We do that shit. And it pisses me off. It should piss off anybody with even an ounce of courage left in their body. And true cowards to the one, they would approve anything, and they did. There is remarkable and reasonable speculation that it was George W. Bush and his deep state that initiated and coordinated the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Yes, George W. Bush might as well have pulled the trigger on the bomb himself. That's the theory. That's how I feel. It's my opinion. God, I hate the man. This was the first step in pushing the Patriot Act through both houses, and it went through like a greased pig in the hands of a kid. Boink, run, boink, 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 can't catch it. But that's another matter to be discussed at another time. A once proud and powerful people, Americans have ignored the warning signs of their own potential demise. Over the decades, they've watched their country fall apart piece by piece under the assault of the practices and policies inspired by the Communist Party. These policies and practices are designed to divide the people and empower the government. These have almost always been rooted in the insidious practice of racial politics, which has long been their weapon of choice. That weapon can be called the darkening of America. Without this, America's current state of decay would never be possible. What is darkening? A simple definition: darkening is the insidious, the horrible practice of pitting blacks against whites, Negroes against non-Negroes, in an attempt to fracture society. For a long time, the satanic forces of communism have set the Negroes against all others in America. Keep in mind that they comprise a population today of around 12%. 12%. That makes them a distinct and definable minority. So what happens with them? What are they doing with them? How are they manipulating them? Tomorrow we'll do chapter 4. The title is America, the Rebirth of Racial Politics, and Nobody is Safe. That's chapter 4. And chapter 5 is the birth of the darkening from Moscow with love. I'm Max. That's it for tonight. Thank you for watching. And you know what? You really need to go over to Amazon, buy that book, The Darkening. We can follow along together. Good night.